Long ago, in a village, there lived a farmer named Nahum. Nahum was hard-working, honest, and simple-hearted. He would leave for his fields before sunrise to plow the land and work tirelessly until sunset. His clothes were like those of any other farmer. The marks of the sun's heat were visible on his face, and his hands showed clear signs of hard labor. He loved his land deeply, because he knew that his livelihood, his life, and his children's future were all connected to it. But in Nahum's heart, there was always a hidden desire rising again and again. He wanted to have a lot of land, so much that he could be counted among the richest people of the village. He owned only a small piece of land. Whenever he looked at his neighbor's vast fields, a wave of envy ran through his heart. He thought, if only I had so much land, I could live peacefully all my life and build a better future for my children. One day, a wealthy woman came to the village from the city with the intention of selling her land. Nahum went to her, and after much thought, he bought a small piece of land. When he got the land, his happiness knew no bounds. Day and night he worked on it, sometimes sowing seeds, sometimes repairing the boundaries of the field. He felt joy just looking at his land. But within a few days, that happiness turned into restlessness. He started thinking that even this land was not enough. If I had more land, he thought. I could grow more crops, earn more money, and become the biggest landlord in the village. Greed slowly started taking root in his heart. He began looking for more land, something that could give him satisfaction and peace. But he didn't know that human greed never ends, even if one owns the entire world. Nahum's desire for land kept increasing day by day. He would spend all his time thinking about how to get more land. His life's only purpose now was land. He worked in his fields, but his mind was always busy with one thought. If only I had more land, I would be so happy. This greed had stolen his sleep. Even when he spoke with others, all he talked about was land. One day, the village chief smiled and said, "We don't sell our land, but anyone who wants can take as much as he wishes under one condition." Nahum was surprised and asked, "What condition?" The chief immediately said, "Before sunrise, start walking from here. Walk as far as you can, and wherever you reach, all that land will be yours. But remember, before the sun sets, you must return to this same spot. If you don't come back before sunset, you will lose all the land." Nahum's heart filled with greed and happiness. He felt that fortune had finally smiled upon him. He stayed awake the whole night, planning where he would go and how he could get the most land possible. He thought to himself that his dreams were about to come true. He would become rich, and his name would be famous throughout the region. But destiny had something else in store. Nahum didn't realize where this race of greed was going to take him. When morning came, with the first rays of the sun, Nahum got up, performed ablution, ate a little food, and reached the chief's place. The chief reminded him, "Remember, you must return before sunset. Otherwise all your effort will go to waste." Nahum replied confidently, "Don't worry, chief. I will come back on time." As soon as the sun began to rise, the chief planted a flag on the ground and said, "Start from here." Nahum began walking, thinking, all this land will be mine. He kept walking and walking until the sun climbed high in the sky. By noon, the sun was blazing hot. Sweat was running down his face, but he didn't stop. He told himself, "It's a little more. It's one more turn, and I'll stop." But every time he thought of stopping, he felt that the land ahead looked more fertile and better, and he kept going. By evening, the sun was about to set. When he turned back, he was shocked to see that he had come very far, and the way back looked extremely long. But now, stopping was impossible, because if he didn't return before sunset, all the land, in a state of panic, he began to walk faster and faster. His legs grew heavy, and his breath started to fade. But he kept running continuously. He had promised himself that he would claim as much land as possible, so he pushed himself harder. At first, his steps were strong, and his pace was quick. He looked to his right and left, touched the soil, smelled the scent of the grass, and thought, asterisk, all this land will be mine. Asterisk, he kept walking and walking until the sun rose high in the sky. By noon, the heat had become intense, and sweat was pouring down his face. But he did not stop. He told himself, asterisk, just a little further, only one more turn, and I'll stop. Asterisk, but every time he decided to stop, he would think, asterisk, the land a little ahead looks more fertile, better than this one, asterisk, and so he kept walking. Evening began to fall, and the sun was close to setting. When he looked back, it was so good he had come so far that the way back seemed impossibly long. But stopping was not an option, because if he didn't return before sunset, all the land would slip from his hands. In panic, he started moving faster. His legs trembled, his breath grew heavier, but he kept running relentlessly. The sun slowly began to descend toward the west, and a wave of fear ran through Niam's heart. He tried to encourage himself, saying, asterisk, just a little more, I'll make it. Asterisk, but fatigue and thirst had completely drained his body. His legs could barely move, yet his eyes still glimmered with greed. He thought, asterisk, if I lose this chance today, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Asterisk, gathering the last bit of strength left in him, he began to run toward the spot with all his might, toward the place that had now become the goal of his life. He started from the same place that morning. Now the sun was about to set. The sky was painted red, and Niam's steps were trembling. He was drenched in sweat, gasping for breath, covered in dust and dirt, running with all his remaining strength toward the starting point. His heartbeat had become uneven, but only one thought was circling in his mind. Asterisk, just reach there before the sun sets. Once I reach, all this land will be mine. Asterisk, from the hilltop, the tribe's chief and the others were watching him from afar. The sun was slowly disappearing behind the mountain. The light was fading, and Niam's steps were getting heavier with every passing moment. When the last edge of the sun was visible, Niam gathered all his strength for one final push. With every ounce of energy left in his body, he ran faster and faster toward the flag, the same spot where he had started in the morning. Just as he reached it, the last ray of sunlight vanished. Niam fell face first onto the ground, his hands clutching the earth. People rushed toward him, but when they lifted him, he was lifeless. His body had given up, exhausted by fatigue, thirst, and the intensity of greed. The chief took a deep breath and said softly, asterisk, in the end, the man only owns as much land as is needed to bury him. Asterisk, then he signaled to his men and said, asterisk, dig 2 yards of land. That is all he needs. Asterisk. The men silently began to dig. Soon, Niam's grave was ready. By the time the sun had completely set, the truth was clear. Human greed never ends. Man desires to possess the whole world, but in the end, he only gets enough land to be buried in. Nahum's story became a lesson for the entire village. People would talk about him and tell their children. Asterisk. Greed destroys a person, for neither wealth nor land can bring peace. True peace lies in contentment, in the calmness of the heart, not in endless pieces of land that one day must all be left behind. Asterisk, from that day on, whenever villagers saw someone acting greedy, they would say, asterisk. Remember name in the end? Every man only gets 2 yards of land. Asterisk. This story teaches us that a person's greed never truly ends, and it is that very greed which leads him to his downfall. Niam was once a hard-working and honest man, but his growing desire blinded him so completely that he lost even his life to it. All the blessings of this world are temporary, and no matter how much a man acquires, the emptiness in his heart can never be filled.